This is my first interview since the deal officially closed, and super happy to be here.
Hey folks, Phil here with Blockchain North. I'm here with none other than Jaime Leverton of Hut8 Mining. I've been wanting to do this interview for a long time, so I'm very excited. And the timing is absolutely unique, and maybe you could tell us why.
Yeah, so I'm incredibly excited to be here. We're at the Canadian Blockchain Summit, and it happened to fall on the day that we have closed our merger with US BTC. So the news went live on the wire approximately 45 minutes ago. This is my first interview since the deal officially closed, and super happy to be here.
That's amazing. So what is the deal exactly? I mean, it is a cross-border deal for one.
Yeah, so it's a merger of equals. US BTC is entirely based in the United States. They've got mining sites in Niagara Falls, in Texas, in Nebraska. Their headquarters is Miami. And they do a mix of Bitcoin mining as well as hosting and managed services, which I'm very excited about. And so really bringing the two portfolios together, Hut8 entirely Canadian focused, a mix of high performance computing data centers as well as Bitcoin mining sites. So I think the combination just works really, really synergistically. We also took the opportunity to move the company headquarters from Canada to the US. So we are setting up as a Delaware Corp, and we'll move corporate headquarters to Miami as well.
Okay, does that mean you're moving to Miami?
No, it does not mean I'm moving to Miami. My children might wish that they were moving to Miami because they love the sunshine. But no, we're going to stay in Toronto, as well as the majority of my leadership team will remain here in Canada, and will continue in their roles as leaders of the new company, and we'll just continue to travel as needed.
Right. And I understand that there are Canadians at the leadership of USBTC as well.
That's right, yeah. One of the co-founders, Mike Ho, is from Vancouver.
Fantastic. Well, we're glad to hear that. Let's go back a little bit in time and first talk about Bitcoin mining. And I actually want to put you on the spot a little bit because I know you're an absolute expert. What is Bitcoin mining, and why do we need it?
Well, Bitcoin miners are responsible for the security of the Bitcoin blockchain. We process all of the transactions on the Bitcoin blockchain. We are essentially the mint. We bring new Bitcoin into circulation. There is no Bitcoin without Bitcoin miners. But when I think about it, I took over as the CEO of Hut8 3 years ago, and my background prior to Hut was predominantly in traditional tech infrastructure, a lot of cloud colocation, high performance computing, data centers really. And what a Bitcoin mine actually is a data center. It's built a bit differently, it's operated a bit differently, but at the end of the day, it's just high performance computing, but specific to the Bitcoin algorithm.
Right, and that piece on the sort of diversification of use cases of Bitcoin mining facilities is really fascinating. It's been an eye-opening experience. For me, there's intersections with AI, as I understand. Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, I'm happy to. So we purchased our traditional data center business about 2 years ago in a transaction we did with Terago. Terago is another public Canadian company, and we purchased their data center business as well as their customers and team, and that's been integrated into the Hut family over the last couple of years. And actually, if you go even further back, Hut8 gets its the company was named after the Hut number that Alan Turing worked in Bletchley Park. And what Alan Turing is famous for is really two things. So he's one of the founders of the cryptography on which blockchain and Bitcoin was born out of. And he's also one of the godfathers or founders of AI. So it really, right from kind of our origin story, that intersection existed. And because my background is on traditional tech and high performance computing, it was always something that I kind of had in my mind for Hut as we looked to diversify and figure out how we could drive the expertise that we have in high performance computing and Bitcoin into the more traditional space, and that really is coming to fruition over the last 6 to 9 months with the cycle we're seeing with GPU clusters being built out specifically for generative AI.
And it's fair to say that Bitcoin mining does not have a great reputation around the world. I think it depends maybe where you look, but there's still a lot of prejudice, a lot of, let's say, opposition to the very concept of it, I think.
I would say there's a lack of understanding,
yes, of course,
and a lack of education.
What I wonder is, do you think this diversification of use cases can contribute to helping resolve that problem, basically, when we say it's not just about Bitcoin mining?
Absolutely, I think so. The way I think about our company, as a merged entity, we'll have just under 850 megawatts total under management.
Okay.
So it's a lot of power.
Yeah.
Power is our number one operating expense. And really we think about ourselves as existing at that intersection between energy and infrastructure.
Okay.
And really how do we get the most out of every electron when applied to compute? And I think what's been nice over the last few months, maybe it hasn't been that long, we've started to see some really good objective research and materials published about the role that Bitcoin mining can actually play in the transition to more renewable energy. So KPMG,
I was going to say KPMG, Fidelity,
yes,
some real serious,
real serious players, and I think that's a big change. We hadn't seen that prior to this year. And I think it's really important for the industry to have recognized, reputable companies starting to speak out on behalf of the space, whereas before it was us trying to convince people that what we were doing was really, really good and beneficial ultimately when we work in conjunction with energy grids and with local communities. Which we do. It's part of our DNA. We're always looking for the lowest cost power. We don't use power during peak periods, so we're one of the only industrial scale workloads that is flexible and can work in conjunction with the grid to really balance a grid, ensure what energy is not being wasted. But this is something that really only this year I think is getting out into the broader narrative, which is critically important.
Yeah. And a year after the FTX debacle, we're seeing the Binance debacle. We don't know exactly where it's going to lead. It's still unfolding, but that doesn't help the image of the crypto industry. What more can the industry do, in your view, to sort of accelerate the PR campaign and the legitimacy, let's say, of this industry, at least from the eyes of those who maybe don't understand it yet?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really important. Part of the challenges we've had as a space is a lack of regulatory clarity. So when there's a lack of regulatory clarity, people are kind of forced to do things offshore. They're forced into operating models that they wouldn't normally choose if they could just figure out how to work in the jurisdictions of their choice. I think Coinbase is doing an incredible job as they try to navigate it and really play by the rules as written. Certainly ourselves, we've been publicly traded since 2018, one of the oldest publicly traded companies in this space, really operate from a governance forward perspective. I think you need to see more players like us, like Coinbase, like many of our peers that are truly professional, are public, are audited, are holding themselves accountable to a higher standard. And the more and more that people like us are in the space, and the more opportunity there is for new entrants to come when that regulatory clarity, certainly in the US, becomes more dominant, I think that will help the space a lot.
With the merger, you must have done a lot of strategic planning for months and months and months. I'm sure you're glad it's over in a way.
Yeah.
Out of this strategic planning, what are some of the plans for 2024 as the larger entity that you will be?
Well, we actually are working on a few things which are public. We're continuing to focus on expanding further into the AI space. We are also in the middle of working with Macquarie, looking to do a strategic relationship with them, where we are attempting to purchase 4 power plant assets here in Ontario directly. So again, when energy is your largest operating expense, the more control you have over that energy, I think is really beneficial and will be unique in the space for us, assuming we're successful with the stalking horse bid that we have in play today. And I think as we think about the business, it's really going to be a mix of how we apply the energy, the electrons to various types of compute, whether it's AI, whether it's Bitcoin, whether it's something new that comes down the pipe. But really, it gives us the optionality to deploy capital in a meaningful way, to be countercyclical, to be strategic, because we have the diversification and are working further into that vertical integration.
I'm going to ask you to pull out your crystal ball now. We're close to...
I do not speculate on Bitcoin price.
I'm not going to ask about the price. We don't really do that. We want to talk more about use cases and the industry at large. 2024 does look pretty good, though. I mean, we're talking about the Bitcoin halving. Of course, for you, it has a different implication, but for the market, it is potentially really positive. The ETFs, I think we have $17 trillion under asset management that are vying for ETFs. Most people I've spoken to today is pretty convinced that it's going to happen. How do you look at 2024? Other maybe than those two obvious sort of elephants in the room?
No, I think that's absolutely true. Obviously, we think there's a lot of momentum in the AI space. I think that's going to continue. I think people are going to realize that there's limited data center capacity. So us having that data center expertise on both the Bitcoin mining side and the more traditional data center space, and then of course a significant amount of power under management, and then we've got a pipeline of greenfield and brownfield opportunities that we'll continue to look at and explore. I touched on earlier US BTC, one of the product lines they developed really just in the last 6 or 9 months is the managed services business, which has a really significant TAM. We're super excited about where that could go. That is an incredibly CapEx light alternative for our business, which is nice. Obviously, infrastructure tends to be very CapEx heavy. So owning this new managed services vertical within the digital asset space, I think, is really exciting, and we're going to continue to push hard on that segment.
And finally, you're Canadian. Obviously, Hut8 is a Canadian innovation and enterprise. Moving to the US, some may regret it, but that's fair game. And of course, we understand some of the strategic reasons for that. But you are Canadian. What do you feel about the Canadian market, where we're at right now, and what are, I guess, your hopes and perhaps your message to the Canadian community at this point in time?
Yeah, I think Canada had such a great early advantage in this space. We've got just an incredible energy sector here, really great talent. I mean, Ethereum was founded here. I travel a lot and do a lot of speaking in our space, and Canadians over-index globally within our industry. But unfortunately, I think we were early with respect to how we thought about the markets. The OSC, I think, has been really thoughtful. I mean, we've had spot ETFs trading for, I think, over 3 years now, for both Bitcoin and Ethereum, and the US is still struggling to figure that out. So I think we have have an incredible framework here, but unfortunately over the last couple of years, it's kind of pulled back from innovation, from the sector. And
why?
It's hard.
Politics?
I think it's become a bit of a bipartisan issue, unfortunately.
Yeah, or a polarizing issue, really.
Yeah.
Like a wedge.
Yeah, wedge. That may be true in other regions as well.
Yeah, fair enough.
But when I think about who's doing it really well, I have to think about what's happening in Dubai and Abu Dhabi. I spend a lot of time in that region, and they've really done an incredible job of attracting talent, of breaking down regulatory barriers, and creating really a global brain trust in our space. And that's something I think Canada had an opportunity to do and was kind of leading in. And it does break my heart that that momentum didn't continue.
Yeah.